which shall form the basis for the County Government Additional Allocation Bill 2024. It also resolved the consistent with the approved borrowing strategy in the midterm debt management strategy and the projected fiscal deficit be set at 703 billion shillings. That is 3.9% of the GDP, being the difference between the total revenues and grants and total expenditure and net lending. And the Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Moses Wetangula, has walked into today's plenary, where the session is expected to commence at 2:30. And I now hand over you to the plenary.
Waheshimiwa, tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umetoa nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, tukusihi utazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao wameridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tunakuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote tutakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na ziwa zako ziendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Sergeant, can you ring the division bell?
And having not achieved the quorum pursuant to Standing Order 34, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula, being a third session of the afternoon sitting, today being March 6th, the session that was expected to commence at 2:30 p.m. And after members of Parliament will have deliberated on the report on the 2024 budget policy statement by the chairperson of Budget and Appropriations Committee, they will also this afternoon discuss on the bill, the National Disaster Risk Management Bill of the National Assembly, that is Bill number 24 of 2023, that is being in its second reading by the leader of the majority party, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, who is also the Member of Parliament for Kikuyu constituency. The principal objective of the National Disaster Risk Management Bill is to provide a legal framework for the coordination of the disaster risk management activities in both levels of government. The bill establishes the Intergovernmental Council on the Disaster Risks Management and the National Disaster Risk Management Authority to ensure that there is a coordination of disaster risk management issues at the national and county level. And the quorum has been achieved in accordance to Standing Order 34, and I now hand over you to the plenary. Let's listen in.
Take your seat. Honorable members, allow me to introduce to you and recognize a delegation from the United Republic of Tanzania. Honorable members, I wish to introduce to you a delegation of honorable members of the Budget Committee from the National Assembly of the United Republic of Tanzania who are seated in the Speaker's row. They comprise the following: the Honorable Daniel Baran Silo MP, Chairperson and Head of Delegation; the Honorable Omar Mohamed Kigua MP; the Honorable Shamsi Vai Naboda MP; the Honorable Mariam Madalu Nyoka MP; the Honorable Dr. Charles Kimei MP; the Honorable Subira Hamis Mugalu MP; the Honorable Jonas William Buda MP; the Honorable Juma Hamad Omar MP; the Honorable Kwagilwa Ruben Gamanilo MP; the Honorable Stella Ikupa MP; the Honorable Joseph Zacharias Kamonga MP; the Honorable Josephat Singamba Kandenge MP; the Honorable Leah Jeremiah Komanya MP; the Honorable Rahid Abdallah Rashid MP; the Honorable Zainab Athuman Katimba MP; the Honorable Bahati Hamisi Kombo MP; the Honorable Vedastos Manyinyi Mathayo MP; the Honorable Oran Manasseh Njeza MP; the Honorable Omar Al Omar MP; the Honorable Zaitun Saif Swai MP; and the Honorable Bahati Kenneth Ndingo MP. Honorable members, the delegation, accompanied by 9 members of staff from the committee secretariat, is in the country to benchmark with their counterpart committee in the National Assembly, share experiences on areas of mutual interest, and foster parliamentary democracy and diplomacy. On my own behalf and that of the National Assembly, I welcome the delegation to the Parliament of Kenya and wish them fruitful engagements during the stay in the country. I thank you.
Order number 3, messages.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Nachukua nafasi hii kukuunga mkono, kukaribisha wenzetu wa bunge jirani kutoka nchi ya Tanzania kwenye bunge letu la kitaifa, na ninapoangalia ninaona wako sawa, sababu wako na akina mama, wako na akina baba. Ninaona wanafuatilia maadili ya kuhakikisha kwamba kila jinsia imeweza kuwakilishwa kwenye kamati hiyo, na nitaomba kwamba tuendelee kufanya ile tunaita demokrasia ya bunge, ndio tuweze kuleta uwiano mwema kwenye jamii zetu, sababu mambo ya Afrika Mashariki, sisi ndio viongozi wa Afrika Mashariki. Tukubali kuwafanya kazi pamoja, tulete uwiano, tulete mambo ya kutengamana vizuri, na nawakaribisha pia waweze kutembea nchini mwetu, ndio wakue wakienda kule Tanzania, wakue ndo watasema mazuri ya nchi yetu, na waweze kutembea, wanajua ni Nairobi peke yake tuko na buga la wanyama katika nchi yetu, katika city ambayo katika jiji letu. Kwa hivyo muweze kupata nafasi ya kutembea, na mkirudi kwenu pia mpeleke salamu zetu kama wabunge na za nchi mzima. Karibuni tena.
Well done, Wangari. Naona unaongea Kiswahili sanifu. Asante sana. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I lay these papers, I also want to welcome our counterparts from the
Honorable Bowen.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Honorable Sahir was inducted very well when he entered into this house.
The
Mr.
Honorable-
Speaker, he just walked from here across to the other side, the Honorable Sahir. Is it not the Honorable Speaker?
Honorable who?
Zahir.
Where is he? You are totally out of order. Go to the bar, bow, and then cross the floor. Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, you know, people learn at different levels and at different times. So, the Honorable, I want to join you, Honorable Speaker, as I lay papers to welcome our brothers and sisters from the United Republic of Tanzania into this august house. Feel most welcome and enjoy the proceedings of this house. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, March 6, 2024, afternoon sitting. Honorable Speaker, 1, sessional paper number 2 of 2018 on national ethics and anti-corruption policy from the Office of the Attorney General. 2, the Kenya-European Union Economic Partnership Agreement from the Minister of Investments, Trade and Industry. 3, the Kenya-European Union Economic Partnership Agreement from the Minister of Investments, Trade and Industry, Treasury. 4, reports of the Auditor General and financial statements for the years ended 30th June 2021 and 30th June 2022, and the certificates therein in respect of A, Our Lady of Perpetual Sakawa Girls Secondary, B, Mosop Mixed Secondary School, St. Michael Unyuani Secondary School, Kwale Girls High School, Mishi Mboko Girls High School, Kanyariri High School, the Salvation Army Likoni High School for the visually impaired, and 5, the annually National Government Budget Implementation Review in respect for the financial year 2022-2023 from the Office of the Controller of Budget. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to lay. I can say Mishi Mboko is smiling because her school.
Yes, thank you, Majority Leader. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Vice Chairperson, Special Funds Accounts Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Why Vice Chairperson? Where is your chairperson?
She's gone for another meeting, Mr.
Pardon?
Speaker. She's gone for another meeting, Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Parliamentary Mortgage Scheme, Parliamentary Car Loan Scheme Fund, Parliamentary Car Loan Scheme Fund, and Parliamentary Catering Fund for the financial years 2020-2021 and 2021-2022 laid on the table of the House on 23rd of August, Thursday, 2023. Mr. Speaker, I'll give another one as well. I've got 7. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Special Funds Account Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Local Authorities Provident Fund for the financial years 2019-2020 to 2021-2022, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 23rd of August, 2023. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Kenya Slum Upgrading Low-Cost Housing and Infrastructure Trust Fund for the financial year 2017-18 to 2021-22, and the Alcoholic Drinks and Control Fund for the financial year 2017-2018, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 18th of October 2023. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that in this House adopts the fifth report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Commodities Fund for the financial years 2018-19, 2019-2020, 2020-2021, and 2021-2022, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 7th of December. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that this House adopts the sixth report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Stores and Services Fund for the financial years 2020, 2021, and 21-22, and the Occupational Safety and Health Fund for the financial years 2020, 2021, and 2021-2022, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 7th of December. And the last two, Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that this House adopts the seventh report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Land Settlements Fund for the financial years 2020-21 and 2021-2022, and the Railway Development Fund holding account for the financial year 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, and 2021, 2022, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 7th December. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that this House adopts the eighth report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Street Families Rehabilitation Trust for the financial year 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, the 7th of December. And that is it. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mishimbogo, Member for Likoni.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That's aware that Article 43(1)(a) of the Constitution provides that every person has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, including the right to health care services. Further aware that mental health is a key determinant of overall health and social economic development, recognizing that the Constitution assigned to the national government the responsibility of matters of health policy, concerned that according to the World Health Organization, mental and neurological disorders are common, and about 10% of the global population suffer from at least one mental health disorder at any given time. Concerned that psychiatric units are only available in a few facilities in the country, and patients requiring psychiatric services have limited or no access to these facilities. Acknowledging that access to healthcare facilities would lead to improve overall health, increase economic productivity, social equity, and improve quality of life for all. Now, therefore, this House urges the national government through the Ministry of Health to collaborate with county government to develop a policy integrating mental health care services in all healthcare facilities in the country. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Mishi. Before I call the next order, honorable members, allow me to acknowledge the presence of the following schools in the public gallery. Gataruet Girls from Bureti, Kericho. Kiriti Secondary School from Tetu, Nyeri. Mamangina University from Kiambu, Gatundu South, Kiambu County. On my behalf and on behalf of the House, we welcome the students and their teachers to the House of Parliament.
Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, Motion, report on the consideration of the 2024 medium-term debt management strategy. Question to be put.
Yes, honorable member.
Honorable Speaker, I seek your indulgence on a statement that I made on the floor of the House with your permission.
Yes, Bashir.
On 30th of November 2023, you approved my bill, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2023, in line of in regard to IBC. On the 6th of December 2023, you allowed me to make a statement on the floor of the House, which I did. And after my statement, you said that you will allow a few members to make contributions to the same statement later before you refer the bill to the relevant committee. So, Honorable Speaker, I seek your indulgence on the way forward. I thank you.
The response has not been brought.
Second. I made the statement, you approved the bill, and then I made a statement.
Yes.
Which I made on the floor of the House. You committed that you will allow members to ventilate a few of them in the subsequent session.
Yes.
That has not yet happened, and I think it requires your direction whether we now continue directly or you approve it to go to the relevant committees.
Bashir, your matter is slated on the order paper for tomorrow. You have not been notified? You can approach the clerks at the table to advise you. Next. You called? Have you called out order 8? Order, honorable members. Order, take the seat. Honorable members, I now put the question at order 8, which is that this House adopts the report of the Public Debt and Privatization Committee on its consideration of 2024 medium-term debt management strategy laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 29 February 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 15(4) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and Standing Order 232S7 and 8, A, approves the 2024 medium-term debt management strategy, and B, makes the policy and financial resolutions contained in the schedule to the order paper. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, report on the 2024 budget policy statement.
Ndindi Nyoro, Chairman, Budget and Appropriations Committee.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to move that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the budget policy statement, that is BPS, for the financial year 2024-2025, and a compendium of departmental committee reports on the 2024 BPS laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 5th March 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 25(7) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and Standing Order 232(9) and 10. A, approves the budget policy statement, that is BPS, for the financial year 2024-2025. B, makes the following financial resolutions with respect to BPS. Roman 1, that the national government budget ceiling be approved at Kenya shillings 2 trillion 564 billion 563 million 100,000, of which the executive gets Kenya shillings 2,488,650,300,000, of which Office of the Auditor General gets 8,599,500,000. Parliament, Kenya shillings 43,623 million. Judiciary, 23,690,300,000. Roman 2 resolves that the allocation to county government's equitable share be approved at 391,117 million. Roman 3 resolves that consistent with the latest audited and approved revenues for financial year 2020-2021, amounting to Kenya shillings 1,570,945,014 shillings. The allocation to the equalization fund be set at 7,852,814,723 shillings. Roman 4 approves that the arrears to the equalization fund be set at Kenya shillings 3,347,185,275 shillings. Approves that allocation to county additional allocation be approved at Kenya shillings 48,186,590,924 shillings as per the third schedule, which shall form the basis for the county government additional allocation bill 2024. 6, Roman 6 resolves that consistent with the approved borrowing strategy in the medium term, the debt management strategy, the projected fiscal deficit be set at Kenya shillings 703,870 million. That is 3.9% of our GDP, being the difference between total revenue and grants and total expenditure and net lending. C, Honorable Speaker, that the first and second schedule form the basis for the ceilings for the financial year 2024-2025 budget estimates. D, that once approved by the House, these recommendations shall form the basis for financial year 2024-2025 budget estimates. E, orders that the first schedule to the order paper forms the basis for the ceilings for the financial year 2024-2025 budget estimates. And F, makes the policy resolutions contained in the second schedule to the order paper, that is non-financial recommendations relating to the budget policy statement for the financial year 2024-2025. Honorable Speaker, I want to allocate myself some role, Honorable Speaker, to request that, if possible, we can move together with my colleagues, because there are some far-reaching issues that we are going to talk about as I bring forth this motion. And I say so because I know there are some policy issues that we have been able to put in place that has got far-reaching implications to what we do here in the House, and especially as we serve the people of Kenya. And therefore, it is possible we can move together. But first of all, Honorable Speaker, I take this opportunity to thank you because of according our committee the right environment for us to work in the last 2 weeks, Honorable Speaker, to be able to come up with this report that we are debating today. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to thank all the memberships of departmental committees, which are 20 in number, and especially led by their chairs, majority of whom I can see here today, Honorable Murugara, Honorable KJ, Honorable Mutonga, representing all the others, including Honorable Kagongo, Honorable Speaker, for taking time with their members, Honorable Speaker, sitting long hours for the last 2 weeks, Honorable Speaker, to be able to make recommendations that they did. To all the departmental chairs, majority of whom, Honorable Speaker, are here, all of them 20, I could have said them by name only because of time, because they are all my friends. I want them to feel appreciated because the Budget Committee will never do this within that sort of time, Honorable Speaker, without the kind of cooperation that we got from the departmental chairs and their memberships. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to thank the members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Honorable Speaker, majority of whom had actually taken leave from their homes for the last 2 weeks. Honorable Speaker, working day and night so that we deliver to our country the right policy statement, and especially by setting ceilings that will lead to accelerated economic growth. Honorable Speaker, even to the Parliamentary Budget Office, an office that falls under you as our head here in Parliament, I want to thank them for being very meticulous, led by Dr. Maside and all the other team from the Parliamentary Budget Office. Honorable Speaker, we came here last year and did the same kind of a report. It is important that I appraise my colleagues on the leaps we have taken, especially forward. Honorable Speaker, last financial year, we came here and made the main budget. We have also come to this house and revised. And out of the policies that have been made by these members of Parliament, because as Budget Committee, our work is basically to compile. The power is in this house, Honorable Speaker. Out of the good policies made through the wisdom of the colleagues in this Parliament, Honorable Speaker, our economy in the year 2023, the first quarter of 2023, the GDP of Kenya grew by 5.5%, Honorable Speaker. In the second quarter of 2023, Honorable Speaker, the GDP of Kenya in the second quarter grew by 5.5%. Honorable Speaker, in the third quarter, our economy, GDP grew by 5.9%. We are still compiling the figures for the entire year, but it is projected, Honorable Speaker, that the Kenyan GDP in 2023 actually grew by 5.6%, Honorable Speaker, which makes Kenya the 28th fastest growing economy in the world. Honorable Speaker, the economy of Kenya in 2023 grew faster than the economy of China. The economy of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, in 2023 grew by many multiples, actually, the economy of the United States of America. The economy of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, grew not just by our standards as released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, but also the data released by international organizations and also Bretton Woods organizations, Honorable Speaker, including IMF and World Bank. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank this House for the good policies that we have put in place that is leading to accelerated economic growth in our country. And the data I'm giving, Honorable Speaker, as you know, I have no capacity to generate data. My work is just to lift and report. And the data that I'm reporting is the data presented to us even by the international organizations. Honorable Speaker, there are other parameters of which we use to determine where the economy is headed. One, as I have said, is GDP. The other parameter, Honorable Speaker, that is very important for us to note is our markets. Our markets, Honorable Speaker, there is the commodity market, there is the exchange rate market, and there is the money market. All these, Honorable Speaker, are determined by the fiscal policies that we put in place, and especially alongside the monetary policies. Honorable Speaker, I can report to this House that in the money markets, Honorable Speaker, yes, we have seen increased interest rates, Honorable Speaker, but it is because it is a tool that we have been using as a country to control especially the other markets, namely the exchange rate market and also the commodities market. Honorable Speaker, in the commodities market, we measure the trends of the prices using what we call inflation. And Honorable Speaker, in regards to inflation, we segment inflation into three birds. or into three categories. One is the food inflation, the other one is fuel inflation, and the other one is what we call non-food, non-fuel, or co-inflation. Honorable Speaker, in total, in the month of January, the inflation in Kenya had come down on year to year to 6.9%. Honorable Speaker, as I speak here today, in the month of February, the inflation in Kenya had climbed down to 6.3%, Honorable Speaker, which is actually within our own targets as a country, because our target as a country in terms of inflation is 5% and a band of 2.5%, either way, that is plus or minus. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, at 6.3%, we are doing very well. Looking forward, Honorable Speaker, and especially driven by food inflation, we can see our inflation going lower and lower, Honorable Speaker, and especially on the lower band, which is below 5%. Honorable Speaker, on the same breath, we have seen quite significant improvements in our exchange rate market. Honorable Speaker, at some point, we could see the other currencies rallying against our local currency. But recently, Honorable Speaker, out of the meticulous policies by this House and also the right government instruments, and especially Central Bank of Kenya, we have been able to see gradually our domestic currency, Honorable Speaker, becoming stronger and stronger. And Honorable Speaker, some of the issues that I've talked about are far-reaching, but they are also very important. And there is something that we are doing on each. And Honorable Speaker, one of the things that we are targeting in terms of the economic growth, number one, is that as the members of this House know, even as we grow the primary production, which basically is the bulwark of our economy, it also behoves of all of us to have the right policies that also accelerate secondary production and also tertiary production. But Honorable Speaker, in terms of primary production, in this BPS, we have been able to allocate significant ceilings, Honorable Speaker, for the purchase of farm inputs, for the purchase of fertilizer that is subsidized, for the purchase of seed, Honorable Speaker, both for cash crops and food crops. Honorable Speaker, we have input ceilings for the purchase of BT cotton, which is also a cash crop in Kenya, Honorable Speaker, and for other issues that I'll be talking about as I conclude. Honorable Speaker, in regards to inflation, what we have major control on, Honorable Speaker, is the food inflation and the core inflation. Because the fuel inflation, to a large extent, is determined by exogenous variables, Honorable Speaker, variables beyond our control. And Honorable Speaker, in terms of food inflation, which we can clearly put in policies, in this BPS, Honorable Speaker, as I said earlier, we have laid down the enough resources so that we continue to boost our production of food so that, Honorable Speaker, we can have enough food, Honorable Speaker, for the balance between demand and supply as our farmers strive to feed our country. Honorable Speaker, also on co-inflation, that is part of the reason why we have been seeing an escalation of interest rates. And Honorable Speaker, as I moved the same report last year, the world was looking gloom and dark because the US, as members know, when it coughs, majority of the other economies catches cold. By that time, Honorable Speaker, the United States was coughing through something called inflation. And for them to contain inflation, they had to continually raise their basis points, the Fed rate, actually from 0 to 0.25% to the current, which is around 5.2% and 5%, Honorable Speaker. The United States had to raise their Fed rate for 11 consecutive times. That had ramifications at home, Honorable Speaker, because as they try to contain their inflation, Honorable Speaker, also it causes imbalance, Honorable Speaker, in the exchange rate market because their currency is the dominant currency. It is a solid currency that the world uses to transact. And Honorable Speaker, just to appraise members, when we have seen the central bank raising interest rates, and especially in the recent past, up to the current 13% in terms of the base rate, Honorable Speaker, this has been majorly to control what we call net capital inflows. Honorable Speaker, when we talk about currency, when we say the currency is weakening domestically, it happens when there is a lot of demand for the external currency. And Honorable Speaker, to balance that, then we had to do things that brings about other currencies into Kenya so that we have more supply of other foreign currencies, Honorable Speaker, to be able to strengthen ours. And Honorable Speaker, in that regard, that is why Central Bank had to raise interest rate. Number one, to contain inflation, but more importantly, also number two, Honorable Speaker, is to make Kenya desirable as an investment destination, and especially in regards to capital inflows. Honorable Speaker, exchange rate is determined by the balance of payment. And the balance of payment has two components. There is the import and exports, which export and import then gives us net exports. Honorable Speaker, on the other side, there is a plus. And this other plus is of capital inflow minus capital outflow, which then gives us net capital inflows. Honorable Speaker, import and export are handled through fiscal policies. And that is what we've been doing by raising our exports, but also by creating an enabling environment for import substitution. Honorable Speaker, on the other side of the capital account, it is managed through monetary policies. And that is why Central Bank of Kenya has been doing the needful so that, Honorable Speaker, we stabilize our currency, and we have already seen the fruit of that. Honorable Speaker, the budget that we'll be presenting later in the year, we have set the ceilings at Kenya shillings. And here I'll talk slowly, Honorable Speaker, if you permit. The budget that we have set in terms of the ceilings is a budget of Kenya shillings 4.188 trillion. Honorable Speaker, out of 4.188 trillion, we have the revenue side, but also the expenditure side. On the revenue side, our number one revenue stream is the ordinary revenue. We have set our ordinary revenue target at 2.94 trillion shillings, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, after that, we have what we call appropriations in aid. That is the monies that government institutions receive when they offer service to the Kenyan people. For example, when you pay university fee in a public institution, that is the monies government institutions are given authority to spend at source. And A&A, Honorable Speaker, we have set A&A at 486 billion Kenya shillings. Honorable Speaker, the other revenue stream are grants. We are expecting grants of 49 billion Kenya shillings. Honorable Speaker, if we add the math, then we see that out of what I've enumerated, there is a gap of 703 billion shillings, 0.87, 703.87 billion shillings. Honorable Speaker, that is our deficit. On the expenditure side, Honorable Speaker, there is and I hope members, we are together. On the expenditure side, we categorize majorly into three thematic areas. Number one is the executive or national government expenditure. National government expenditure, Honorable Speaker, we have set a ceiling of 2.557 trillion. Honorable Speaker, national government incorporates the executive and the judiciary and parliament, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I see my time is almost up, so let me go to specifics, if this is to alert me. I thought I have 30 minutes, but...
You have 30 seconds.
Yeah?
You have 30 seconds.
Honorable Speaker, I beg, because I had been misinformed, kindly, by your indulgence, 5 minutes, I go to the areas that touches on the real issues. Okay. I thought I had 30 minutes.
Honorable members, as I indulge the chairman with 5 minutes, remember that you passed a motion that on a debate of this nature, the seconder and all of you contributing are entitled to only 5 minutes each.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I'll go to specifics. Honorable Speaker, there are very many important things that we've been able to do, and I'll talk fast now. One, out of the threat we have in terms of security, we have enhanced the ceilings of majority of our security organs, Honorable Speaker, because we cannot talk about economic growth when we have security challenges. What, Honorable Speaker, there is 67 billion Kenya shillings. We have allocated 220 billion Kenya shillings into roads, and especially going into completion of ongoing tarmac roads, Honorable Speaker. On agriculture, we have put money for fertilizer subsidy, Honorable Speaker, across all the crops, fertilizer that is crop specific, Honorable Speaker. We have put money for other inputs like BT cotton seed, Honorable Speaker, like sunflower seed, and all the others on the value chains that we are targeting. We have also put in a ceiling of Kenya shillings 2 billion into Kenya cherry fund, into coffee cherry fund, Honorable Speaker, to be able to guarantee coffee farmers prices through guaranteed minimum returns. We have also put in 1 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker, into sugar reforms, Honorable Speaker, to pay the arrears of Kenyan farmers who are owed by factories. We have also enhanced the budget in our health sector to Kenya shillings 151 billion, 4 billion of which we are giving as conditional grants to our counties, and especially to uplift the equipment in our level 1, 2, and 3 in our villages. But here is where I need members now to capture your attention. Honorable Speaker, many times I get these members of parliament coming to my office, and I am always happy, Honorable Speaker, to benefit from the wisdom of my colleagues. And what I'm talking about here is collective wisdom of this House. Out of that collective wisdom, I also want to laud the President, because he has been a member of this parliament, and majority of the things I'm going to read now are actually majority of it his brainchild. One, Honorable Speaker, we have given Social Security 35 billion so that we facilitate the 70 years and above who got registered last year to also continue or start receiving their stipend. We have enhanced the education budget, and especially TSC budget specifically, by 26.3 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker. And out of the resolution of this House, all our JSS interns, who are 26,000 in number, are going to be confirmed through this BPS to permanent and pensionable. Honorable Speaker, the government will also hire an extra 20,000 interns, Honorable Speaker, to bridge the gap that is there in our learning institutions. Honorable Speaker, this House, for the independence of this House and to accelerate efficient legislative role, we have enhanced the budget of Parliament by 2.8 billion Kenya shillings, Honorable Speaker. This majority of it, as members know, many people out there may think legislature is us members of Parliament, but we have staff and apparatus. Honorable Speaker, our constituency offices, the Kenyans who work there have not had an enhancement. Honorable Speaker, out of this BPS, by July, every month, they'll get an enhancement of 131,000 per month on the constituency offices. Honorable Speaker, the same goes to the drivers and the bodyguards. Honorable Speaker, there was 10 billion Kenya shillings that had been taken to shareable revenue in our counties. I gladly now report to this House that money is now back and will be oversighted by these members of Parliament through the Constituency Roads Committee. Honorable Speaker, lastly, NGCDF. We have enhanced NGCDF by an extra 8.8 billion shillings. An average of 30 million per constituency on average, Honorable Speaker, so that we accelerate rural development. Lastly, listen to these members. Out of the guidance of the President, His Excellency William Ruto.
Order. Order.
I'm coming to GAF.
Order, honorable members.
I'm coming there. Honorable Speaker, this is the most important point that I want to make. We have increased. Members have been coming to my office requesting for money for rural electrification. Honorable Speaker, we had a conversation with the President, and we have agreed that REREC is going to get an extra Kenya shillings 12 billion in this BPS.
Give him 2 minutes. Give him 2
Honorable
minutes.
Speaker, Honorable Speaker, I want to make this as my last
Wind
point.
up in 2
so that-
minutes. 2 minutes. I've given you an
Honorable
additional
Speaker.
2 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, this is my last point. I have talked about NGCDF, an enhancement of 8.8 billion. Honorable Speaker, we are already having a conversation, and by the time we table the estimates, even GAF is going to have an enhancement, Honorable Speaker. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, listen to this. We have had a conversation with the President, and through the wisdom of this House, majority of the members, when they come to my office, they request if we can get an enhancement in our rural electrification. Honorable Speaker, out of that, we have enhanced the ceiling of REREC by Kenya shillings 12 billion, Honorable Speaker, out of which REREC already had another budget of 9 billion. Honorable Speaker, out of that, 14.5 billion Kenya shillings is going to be equally divided among all the 290 constituencies. Because the President is very clear-minded that the programs that get oversight from these members, that is what gets done. Honorable Speaker, I seek to move.
Who is seconding? Order. Who is seconding?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. As the way we work in terms of this parliament, our departmental committees do a lot, and I seek to request one of the departmental chairs, Honorable KJ, to second this motion.
Order.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you. And I want to take this very early opportunity as I second.
Order, honorable members. Order, Honorable Kemei is out of order to picket in the House. Go on, KJ.
Thank you for the protection, Mr. Speaker. And I want to take this very early opportunity as I second to congratulate the very esteemed Budget and Appropriations Committee for banning the midnight oil and being able to deliver this budget policy statement report on time. Honorable Speaker, I shall also take the opportunity to congratulate the very able chairperson of the committee, the honorable member for Kiharo constituency, the Honorable Ndende Nyoro. Mr. Speaker, as committees were going through the process of budget policy statement, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members, order DK. You can wait and congratulate your colleague out there in the garden. Don't disrupt the business of the House. Go on, KJ.
Honorable Speaker, we were able to make very serious observations as we were going through the process of the budget policy statement. And one key issue that we noted, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that even if on paper we agreed that we are working on a zero-based budget regime, we noted that we still have a situation where we are budgeting using traditional and historical allocations, Mr. Speaker, to an extent that there are sectors that end up suffering because traditionally they have not been very big sectors at the expense of the sectors that have always been dominant sectors, the very infrastructure heavy, capital intensive sectors like roads, education, health, and all these other big sectors. But Mr. Speaker, the big take home for this BPS is the fact that this House has finally found its footing in the process of budget making, that this House is taking the very serious business of budgeting back to where it belongs, which is the floor of this House. Mr. Speaker, over the years, there have been people who have attempted to overtake or usurp the responsibility of budgeting to themselves. And the culprits, Mr. Speaker, are known. The very infamous treasury mandarins have been known to interrupt the budgeting process. But this year, Mr. Speaker, with the process that we have undertaken, we are truly taking our place as the budgeting House. Mr. Speaker, I'd finally like to add this to this point. that with a 4.1 trillion Kenya shilling budget, that we are funding to the tune of 2.9 trillion from regular revenue, it means then that we are a country that is serious on living within its means. We are not here as parliament trying to budget in the way that we have seen even some counties trying to budget, where they overproject on the revenues that are not achievable, and they end up underscoring on the performance targets on the budget. So, Mr. Speaker, because the excitement is high, these members have seen the money they have put in for their electricity, for their schools, for the women and the youth in their constituencies. Mr. Speaker, I will not take any more time to dilute the excitement other than to congratulate the very able member of parliament from Keharo, the Honorable Samson Dende Nyoro, and his very hardworking committee of the Budgets and Appropriation Committee. And Mr. Speaker, I second.
Order, Honorable Sirma, take the nearest seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the Budget Policy Statement BPS for the financial year 2024-2025 and a compendium of departmental committee reports on the 2024 BPS laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 5th March 2024, and pursuant to the provision of Section 25(7) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and Standing Order 2329 and 10, A, approves the Budget Policy Statement BPS for the financial year 2024-25. B, makes the following financial resolutions with respect to the BPS. 1, that the national government budget ceiling be approved at Kenya shillings 2,564,563,100,000, of which 1, executive 2,488,650,300,000, of which Office of the Auditor General 8,599,500,000, Parliament 43,623,000,000, Judiciary 23,690,300,000. 2, resolve that the allocation to county government equitable share be approved at 391,117,000,000. 3, resolves that consistent with the latest audited and approved revenues for the financial year 2020-2021, amounting to Kenya shillings 1,570,562,945,014 shillings, the allocation to the equitable fund be set at Kenya shillings 7,852,814,725. 4, approves that the arrears to the equalization fund be set at Kenya shillings 3,547,185,275. 5, approves that the allocation for the county additional allocations be approved at Kenya shillings 48,196,590,924 as by the third schedule, which shall form the basis for the county government additional allocations bill 2024. 6, resolves that consistent with approved borrowing strategy in the medium-term debt management strategy, the projected fiscal deficit be set at Kenya shillings 703 billion 870 million, that is 3.9% of GDP, being the difference between the total revenues and grants and total expenditure and net lending. C, that the first and second schedules form the basis for the ceilings for the financial year 2024-2025 budget estimates. D, that once approved by the House, this recommendation shall form the basis for financial year 2024-25 budget estimates. E, orders that the first schedule to the order paper forms the basis for the ceilings for the financial year 2024-25 budget estimates. And F, makes the policy resolutions contained in the second schedule to the order paper creating the budget policy statement for the financial year 2024-25. Joseph McClap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a reason to smile and say the report of the PPS actually meets the expectations of Kenyans. 1.5 billion meant for rural electrification, divided by 290 constituencies. Being a student of double mathematics, that takes every constituency on equal terms at 50 million per constituency. Mr. Speaker, if this will continue for the next 3 years, Mr. Speaker, it will change the percentage of power distribution in our country, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, it is only necessary that REREC need now to put the money that will equate to, because not all constituencies have the same distribution network of power. Mr. Speaker, it means there is an equitable share of 14.5, and then the other monies now can be added so that other constituencies that have challenges can be actually be supported at equal measure, so that we bring up Kenya in all directions equitably for the people of Kenya to enjoy power. Mr. Speaker, the other important thing that we were debating in the morning, the chairman of the budget has raised a substantial issue that will bring development in Kenya, the promotion of growing of cotton in parts of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, will give us an opportunity to create employment. And even in the value chain of the cotton industry, Mr. Speaker, that is the plan of Kenya Kwanza, Mr. Speaker. And if we encourage the growing of cotton throughout the Republic, Mr. Speaker, then we shall be able to have fabric made from Kenya, and we can be able to put on what is made from Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the other part that is very important, Mr. Speaker, that has been raised by the chairman of the budget is the bringing back of about 10 billion shillings to Kera, so that it will be able to go to our constituencies, money that has been encroached by the governors for a period of time. Mr. Speaker, this will change the road network in our country, Mr. Speaker, because when the roads that are visible today in Kenya are the ones done by Kera, not done by the county government, Mr. Speaker. So the bringing back of 10 billion makes sense to this House and makes sense in the development of the road network in our constituency, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of the intern, Mr. Speaker, confirmation of intern without going further through an interview, Mr. Speaker, is actually changing the lives of about 56,000 teachers that were employed, Mr. Speaker. And an additional 20,000 teachers are going to be employed, Mr. Speaker. Those are the people who actually meet with the rubber every day. They are in the villages. That money that will be paid to teachers will actually be the money that will go to our communities, Mr. Speaker, and creating of 20,000 people for employment, Mr. Speaker, means we are changing lives for Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even the reduction of the fiscal deficit, Mr. Speaker, to 703, Mr. Speaker, is the way to go. We should continue to reduce the fiscal deficit in our country so that we cannot continue to have huge debts, public debt, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the PPS, Mr. Speaker, gives us an opportunity as Parliament to approve a budget that will be able to distribute resources throughout the Republic of Kenya in the most fairest manner, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, some of the programs that the chairman has also highlighted, Mr. Speaker, are actually pro-people, pro-poor, Mr. Speaker. And that is what we want to bring up the rural economies, and we'll be able to get, when you develop the rural economies, Mr. Speaker, through production, you will get more revenue into our economy, and this country will be able to grow economically, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these programs, Mr. Speaker, including, according to the details, including giving money to the modernization of police equipment, Mr. Speaker, so that we have effective and efficient security system that will be able to stem out the spread of criminal network in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, and we will be able to have a country that is free from gangsters and bandits who actually terrorize innocent citizens and be able to grow our economy, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support and say the chairman of the budget is equal to task. He needs a further promotion.
Christopher Aseka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the budget policy statement 2024. This statement is written in accordance to section 25(2) of the Public Finance and Management Act of 2012. BBS lays government priorities and strategies. It helps to set ceilings, expenditure ceilings by every vote. And looking at this budget policy statement, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that Treasury has really worked well to ensure that the deficit on the 2024-2025 budget is reduced from 886 billion to 703. But as we laud Treasury in this endeavor, we should also ask ourselves, Honorable Speaker, if the overprojection of revenue collection by Treasury will hinder the implementation of this budget. Mr. Speaker, if Treasury doesn't collect the 2.5 trillion in ordinary revenue, it means the deficit on this budget will increase. It also means, Mr. Speaker, that some programs and projects within the budget will be affected. But on good side, Mr. Speaker, I want also to laud this budget policy statement. As the chairman of Budget and Appropriation Committee has put it, ensuring equity and equality within the nation is the way to go. Having equal amount of money to ensure that all areas within the Republic of Kenya are connected to the power is one thing that we should laud. Mr. Speaker, having money in this budget to ensure that our interns, whom we were employed some 2 or 3 years ago, are employed on a permanent and a pensionable basis is another thing that we should laud. Mr. Speaker, also having more money to Parliament to enhance capacity building for members of Parliament, to ensure that there's money for Senate oversight, and ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that Parliament does not operate in a way that is being undermined by executive is also another way, Mr. Speaker, to go. But as we look at this, Mr. Speaker, we must also look at the credibility part of the budget and ensure that this budget is credible, it is implementable, and something that the Treasury has not come out clear on this budget policy statement is how it's going to manage the pending bills. But Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Seka. Geoffrey Mwangi from Tetu.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to applaud the chairman of the Budget Committee for such a well thought out budget policy statement. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I must admit that this budget is quite pro-poor. It touches on the most important aspect of the lives of our people, the most pressing needs. And so this is very much in line with the Kenya Kwanza government, a bottom-up economic transformation model. Mr. Speaker, I would just like to point out a few things that caught my attention And one of them is the need to complete some of our ongoing projects, especially roads. And Mr. Speaker, in my own constituency, Teto, we have a lot of roads that have been that have stalled. And so this additional money that has been provided is going to become very useful for that. Mr. Speaker, it's also very important that we deal with the issues of pending bills. It is important to note that pending bills have now become the third most important source of government financing, which ideally they should not, because we should not be waiting for small SMEs to provide services to government and then wait for many years. So it is important that we set aside money for pending bills. Mr. Speaker, putting more money to farmers in terms of subsidized fertilizer, subsidized seeds and seedlings is a welcome move. Part of the reason why inflation has reduced to 6.3% in the month of February has been because of the good harvest that we have gotten in the last 2 seasons. And now with the rains are setting in early, it is important that we fast track taking subsidized fertilizer to our farmers so that they can be able to be on time, for the harvest. Mr. Speaker, the hiring of 20,000 interns, and especially the confirmation of those ones who are already interns, will come as a big relief. Already as members of parliament, we are under a lot of push by these interns, whether they are going to be relieved or whether they are going to be confirmed at the end of their term. So this move to ensure that all of them, 100%, will be absorbed on permanent and pensionable basis will come as an extra relief. The money going to CDF, the extra 30 million, the extra 50 million going to REDEC, the extra 10 billion going to KERA, all of them are targeted to each and every constituency are going to give a much needed boost. And Mr. Speaker, just like my colleagues have said, the work done at the constituency level is visible. While we cannot speak about the work done at county or these other places, it is easy to identify a classroom, it is easy to identify a road, it is easy to parade students who are actually going to school, courtesy of the bursary program. But Mr. Speaker, the challenge we have is it's one thing to allocate money. It's another thing to ensure that the money is managed prudently. So the people concerned, especially in the executive, the accounting officers for the various departments that are going to be receiving this money, we urge and implore them to ensure that it is used prudently. For a country, a developing country like Kenya, we cannot afford to waste even a single shilling. Our development is pegged on how well we can utilize our resources efficiently. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, we will for very many years continue to compare ourselves with Singapore, we will continue to compare ourselves with Korea, and the difference between them and us is how well they utilize the resources at their disposal. So I rise to support and congratulate the chairman of the budget. And Mr. Speaker, though belatedly, allow me to welcome Kireti Secondary School, who are here in the gallery. They are a school from my constituency and one of the very well performing schools. So together with all the other schools that are here, I warmly welcome them to the House of Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Edith Nyenze.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Let me take this opportunity to say I support the budget proposal statement from the chair, and I take this time to congratulate the committee for the hard work they put, and also the departmental committees for the good work they did. And I particularly support especially the employment of the teachers from being interns. They have really been having problems, and every time trying to find out from their members of parliament how they can become permanent and pensionable. But now with this budget, they will be able to be absorbed. The other thing which I congratulate is especially on electrification of the whole country, and this one is very very important because all through, especially for some of the MPs, we have a challenge where electrification has not been done, and during this time when technology has really improved and where everyone requires electricity, it's very important that we power the whole of the country. So it's welcome. What on the caution is, especially on the use of the funds, that they should be used in the right way. They should be put into proper use. And where possible, we should also talk on how we are going to pay the pending bills for those ones who have not been paid, and also see how we will use the money for the purposes which it's intended to be used for, so that we reduce on taxing the Kenyans more and more every time, but for that we use the money in the right way. With that, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Edith. Jerry Maina.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the chairman budget and also congratulate him for very well detailed elaboration on the floor of the August House. Honorable Speaker, I want to urge this House, as we are undertaking the budget making process, and I'm a member of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, to ensure that we cater and increase the allocation of the judiciary. Honorable Speaker, Article 48 of the Constitution of 2010 stipulates that the state must facilitate equal access and expeditious access to justice in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, it is quite unfortunate that due to funding constraints, as I speak, we keep going back and forth about the backlog in the judiciary. Honorable Speaker, we do not have enough magistrates. We do not have enough support staff. We do not have enough Court of Appeal judges, and the entire justice sector, Honorable Speaker, needs adequate funding so that they can be able to fully implement the spirit of the Constitution of 2010. Honorable Speaker, it is also quite unfortunate to note that county women members of the National Assembly have no increase whatsoever. Yet I have seen that there is an increase for single constituency members. Honorable Speaker, county MPs work with a budget of Kenya shillings 9 million per sub-county or per constituency. In that money, there is admin, there is money that is retained by the board for emergency. We are also supposed to undertake programs that cater for women and cater for PWDs, a large section of our youth populace too. Honorable Speaker, honestly speaking, it is very unfortunate, and this House must collectively support county MPs so that they are also able to execute their mandate as per the Constitution of 2010. And it is, I know we have many he for she's, and I know that the male members of this House support county MPs because they have supported us when we were angling for sanitary towels for our girls. I am kindly and humbly requesting them to also support us when it comes to budget allocation so that we can be able to execute our mandate and represent women, PWDs, and also the young people of this nation. Honorable Speaker, as I wind up, I want to note that it is very important to ensure that our fiscal policy mirrors the constraints that we have financially. We must also ensure that the increased allocation to counties is felt in regard to all the devolved functions, healthcare, agriculture, the roads that county governments are supposed to do. And as we focus on entrenching the ward fund, this is a discussion that we must have. And I have said time and time again, Kenyan people do not have an issue with paying taxes. They want to feel and see their taxes working for them. They want healthcare services that are working. They want infrastructure in terms of road and schools. They also want a working justice system, Honorable Speaker, and all other aspects of government that we are supposed to ensure we cater for our people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Njeri. Andrew Okwome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me start by saying that I support the budget. And, well, budget policy statement, I support it as it is. And as I wait for the final budget that will be read in the future. Now, one thing I appreciate in the proposal is the increase on NGCDF. NGCDF has demonstrated itself that it's the fund that is working, and the product of it is clearly seen by everybody. So when I go to my constituency and tell them this, they will be happy with me because they know we have increased the fund that gives benefit to them. Now, as I support that, I would have also wanted the county to be given a little more than what they have got, because they are also doing a good job. I would also say that the side which probably I'm not quite sure I'll be supporting 100% is that deficit of 703, because that's where the devil is lying. When we come to getting that deficit, I'm sure you will be going to borrowing as the funding source. And our borrowing level is so high that I know what we'll be doing is to borrow a fund that we will not be able to pay even during our term of service in Bunge. It will spread over many other years coming, so that the future generation will be facing a burden that they never knew the source of. In an equal way, as we now face very heavy taxation because of debt, and yet we don't know how those old debts came about. The other thing I know is coming is, because our budget is increasing from 3.9 something to 4.188 thereabout. That deficit will also be funded by, or say that large budget of 4 trillion is 2.9 of it is going to come from taxation. And taxation, as I speak today, before the coming budget is approved, as we speak today, taxation is so high, making the cost of living almost impossible for our people. If we increase the budget by that big margin, it means that we are going to tax more and more. And taxing people more, we know is a real concern, not only by us, but practically by all Kenyans. And I think this kind of thing, we should find a way of bringing down. Mr. Speaker, our food security is a concern. I do not think we have increased budget enough to encourage agriculture so that we can be able to do more on agriculture so that our food security can be enhanced in order that we can be a nation that feeds itself. A nation that is hungry is a nation that is sick. Mr. Speaker, with this, I want to say that I support the BPS, but my concern I've actually just stated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kwame. Murumba Chikati.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I seek to support the BPS for the reason that we have a major problem with youth unemployment, and there is need to look at that critically. And therefore, the aspect of the interns in terms of creating something for them to be busy, I fully support. Mr. Speaker, the other area that we may need to look at are the schools. For example, in Tongareni constituency, where I come from, with 52 schools and a population of 28,000 students, we have a shortfall of around 50% of the teachers in those schools, meaning that that is a critical area. If we have to improve education in our constituencies, we need to enhance funding for employment of teachers in our schools. Tongaren also faces a lot of problems in electricity infrastructure, and therefore, I really applaud the committee for allocating funding for spread of electricity in our constituencies. I also support the fact that we need to look at agriculture, and especially agriculture extension services in our constituencies, which will boost agriculture production in our areas. I beg to support, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mark Mwenje. Give him the mic. Give him the mic. There you are.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First of all, let me congratulate the team, the Budget Committee for this, for their work. This ambitious BPS. Honorable Speaker, one of the things that I've noted is that for the first time, I think our government has accepted that borrowing is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as the funds are put in the right place and used effectively, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the language that is used in the BPS is encouraging. It is promising, such as of that I've seen in agriculture. Honorable Speaker, we've seen the details that have gone into this BPS, where they're talking about coffee, and I believe about 2 billion being put into coffee. There's money going into sugar to help the farmers, fertilizers. And Honorable Speaker, I trust that the Committee of Agriculture will ensure that there is more being done by the funds that they be allocated to them. Honorable Speaker, it's encouraging also the language used in regards to SMEs. But Honorable Speaker, we've only seen them speaking as much so far as the Hustler Fund, Honorable Speaker. I'd want to encourage those in charge. There's a fund called Uwezo Fund, Honorable Speaker, and it makes a difference. Building of markets is a good thing, Honorable Speaker, but I have seen markets in Central, I believe in Olkalau, but even here in Nairobi, Honorable Speaker, where we have markets built, but we don't have traders in there. The issue is because we are not putting money to these SMEs. It is not enough. That is where we need to put our money to ensure that these SMEs are able to put up their businesses. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the chair for his passionate delivery on the issue of REREC. But Honorable Speaker, as a member from the Nairobi County, I want to inform him, and I'm hoping the chair of budget is listening to me. As Nairobi, we don't get our fair share of REREC. And let's be honest, Honorable Speaker, one transformer up country serves 20 people. One transformer in Nairobi will serve 10,000 people. So it is only fair that we get our share because we pay more as Nairobi. So we are not taking money from anybody else. We want our fair share as REREC, as it has been delivered. And this year, as Nairobi MPs, and there are 17 of us, we will make sure we get our share fair. I know that is touching on the nerve. Most of our money gets taken away from us, Speaker, but this time, Nairobi, we must get our fair share, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the issue of NGCDF, I just want to thank the chair for his increase. We all know what NGCDF does out there, but also I also would request the chair NGCDF who is seated here, the Honorable Musa Sirma, to make sure there's an equitable way of sharing these funds. Some of us have an issue, we have 4 wards, but the population in my constituency, Honorable Speaker, is the 15th largest in the entire country, Honorable Speaker. So we need a system that is fair to distribute these funds that we've been given, Honorable Speaker. The issue of KERA as well. I'd want to tell the chair of budget, in Nairobi, our KERA roads must be built with tarmac. It means our funds will require, and in Nairobi, we contribute the highest. The GDP in Nairobi is 60%. So it's only fair that we get something additional because our money goes towards building tarmac roads, which you use yourselves, members of parliament, when you come to Nairobi. As a finalized, Honorable Speaker, the BPS is ambitious. We need some innovative ways of making sure the revenue collection that is collected does not hurt Kenyans. So it is possible. We don't have to increase taxes. There is a way we can fund this BPS and ensure it is achieved. But on the downside, in the event that we are unable to fund this BPS, please do not take away money in the supplementary budget from Parliament. Don't take it away from the development. Please take it away from the executive or somewhere else. Let us make sure Parliament does not lose its money as we saw in the supplementary bill earlier sometime last year. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to support the BPS statement as issued by our chairman. Mr. Speaker, for the first time, I have seen a budget that is prolonged in such a way that it matches the manifesto of the ruling government. The Kenya Kwanza government, Mr. Speaker, with a better program, went to the people and told the people that they will come up with a budget that is very responsible to the citizens. Mr. Speaker, I note with a lot of appreciation the concern the budget has taken on the housing sector. Mr. Speaker, as we said, housing is one of the key pillars of the Kenya Kwanza government. Mr. Speaker, housing will come with employment. It will come with good shelter. It will come with training and technology development. Mr. Speaker, the 64 billion shilling that has been put by the budget through the BPS statement as A&A will go about to enhance that program. Mr. Speaker, I noticed that health is one of the areas that the BPS statement has put emphasis on. Mr. Speaker, the Universal Health Care Program, which is a better plan for the Kenya Kwanza government. For the first time, we have seen a budget that is tailor-made to benefit the health care standards of this country. Mr. Speaker, we have the food security and we have manufacturing. Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate the chairman for finding it very necessary for the first time. He aligns what the government believes in. He aligns what the Kenyans expect. He aligns what we members of parliament have been saying throughout. Mr. Speaker, every constituency is going to benefit this time allowed. Mr. Speaker, in the past, we have been seeing a lot of discrimination against certain constituencies. Mr. Speaker, in as much as we're also saying that each constituency will benefit, let's be careful, noting that there are some constituencies which are not 100% connected. I will differ with my friend Nairobi that many constituencies in the rural areas don't serve 20 people. That's an insult to the rural constituencies. Mr. Speaker, even if it's 20 people, let them be given electricity like any other Kenyan. Mr. Speaker, the increment in the budget on electricity is going to bring even, we are not talking about equal, we are talking about equality and equity. That's what we are speaking about here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for the first time we have seen development money being put in the budget and a reduction in the recurrent expenditure. And I want to thank the chairman for finding it necessary that we curtail water usage of money through recurrent expenditures and siphoning that money into the development expenditure. Mr. Speaker, ideally, would like to appreciate that I wish the chairman is listening to this. There is one concept which has not been given a lot of emphasis, and that is ICT technology. Mr. Speaker, the ICT technology will cut across all sectors of this country. It will cut across health sector, it will cut agriculture, it will cut education, it will cut employment, all sectors of this economy. Mr. Speaker, the budget should be geared to improvement of technology, and I ask when it comes to the actual budget making, we put more money in the ICT technology so that we can benefit as a country. Mr. Speaker, this country has now grown to know where to get the money from and how to spend it. Mr. Speaker, I congratulate the committee and say this is the direction to go. The Kenya Kwanza government is focused, despite all the criticisms, the Kenyan government is going to deliver to the Kenya society. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I want to take this early opportunity to support the BPS document that has been presented to us by the chair of the Budget Committee. And Honorable Speaker, I'd really like to applaud the chair, especially taking into consideration the rural electrification for the 290 constituencies. But I also have a couple of reservations, Honorable Speaker, that I think the committee needs to take cognizance of. Honorable Speaker, to start with, and the Honorable member who just spoke before me alluded to this, that the ICT departmental states have not been properly funded. Honorable Speaker, the digital superhighway is as important as the roads infrastructure in this country. And if you are not putting enough funding into that particular space, then we are not taking into consideration the fact that as a country, we are currently in the 4th industrial revolution. Other countries are in the 5th industrial revolution. And if we don't take cognizance and ensure that we are at the same pace with other countries, then Honorable Speaker, we will suffer. Honorable Speaker, when you look at the social protection space and the fact that the fight on GBV in this country is highly funded by donor funds. Honorable Speaker, this should be something that we worry about as a country, because if we are not protecting our women, our children adequately in terms of putting enough funding into that space and only depending on donors, then Honorable Speaker, we don't have our priorities in the right space. Honorable Speaker, when it comes to the gender department, and in particular, the fact that there is still very poor coordination between the distribution of pads from the gender department to the 47 counties. Honorable Speaker, this is an area of a lot of concern. Honorable Speaker, the other one is in the space of labor. And when we notice that currently we don't have enough funding to the public service internship program. Honorable Speaker, we are a country that is blessed to have 78% of our population being youthful in nature. And if you're not putting enough money to ensure that our young people are properly prepared for the job market, then we are not doing any service to the population of this country. Honorable Speaker, in the sports department, we are about to host the CHAN in 2024. We are about to host the AFCON in 2027. The other day, I saw the president doing groundbreaking for a stadium that is meant to host the 2027. But I take particular concern when I note that the committee has indicated to us that they are yet to receive any comprehensive resource requirement from this particular state department. Because, Honorable Speaker, then what are we putting in terms of priority? Honorable Speaker, the other matter that really concerns me is that as at the 23rd of February, we have had 800,000 Kenyans who applied for passports, who paid fees of up to 2 billion, and yet we are told that the reason why they've not been able to receive their passports is because there's lack of booklets. Honorable Speaker, I'm wondering, this particular state department, if they are raising so much revenue from people applying for passports, why does it have to be a delay for them to receive the same passports, especially if they're raising so much money? Honorable Speaker, that does not make sense at all. Honorable Speaker, I also just want to raise a concern on the timelines that have been indicated in terms of each state department and the timelines they've been given of when they should be able to balance out the requirements that they've given, which is by June of this month. Honorable Speaker, I'll be very concerned at that particular time to see if this has actually happened. Honorable Speaker, as I finish, I also just want to raise another concern that I feel like all our state departments are acting like cost centers. We are not getting a sense of how state departments are being innovative in terms of raising on-source revenue as a country. If you're being so dependent on depending on the budget allocations that are being given, our state departments are increasingly becoming cost centers, then what are we doing as a country? What are the sources of on-source revenue that we want to look at? And finally, as I finish, I just want to also applaud the fact that an additional budget has been put for our drivers and our bodyguards, Honorable Speaker, because this usually comes back as an expense to us. And Honorable Speaker, just to tell the chair, as a future women rep, tafadhali in future, please ensure that we are not speaking about.
Your time is up, Murugara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to rise and support the budget policy statement, which has been ably presented by the chairperson of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Thank him profusely and his committee for work very well done. With such a policy, which is going to form the backbone of the budget estimates, which will be coming to this House during the month of April, to be considered the months of May and June, then definitely we are likely to spur growth of our country, both economically, socially, and other aspects. It is very important to note the highlights he has made to us, and we are excited about it. That we have had pleas from our constituents, the teacher trainees all over the country, crying that they've been trainees for too long. We are happy to hear that after we pass budget of 2024-2025, these trainees will now be absorbed as permanent and pensionable teachers in our country. And for that, we actually give accolades to the chairperson and his committee. We've also heard about the CDF increment. CDF is actually the visible development we see in the rural areas. So it's vitally important that we channel money through CDF because it's also best used. It's utilized very well with audits running almost 12 months in a year so that that money is applied the way it has been budgeted for. Thank you for the increase, and we promise that the committee is down there because MPs have no role to play in CDF. The committees will take care of the money. We will get development as we deserve. We've also had on RELEC, and this is very important. Electricity is required everywhere in the country. It's not just the urban areas. And the proposal to take about the 15 billion and have it shared equally may actually not be equitable. Because as we speak today, there are constituencies that are lagging behind in grid connectivity to an extent that my own constituency, Tharaka, is not more than 25%. From 2017, when it was 9.5 to now it's about 25. We are not doing well. If that is compared with possibly the Kiambu constituencies, which are now almost at 100% across, then this is not fair, it is not just. We will be making representations to the House that when it comes to the money going to RELEC, the distribution of that money must be equitable. Not equally, but equitable, so that those who are behind get more than those who are up there, who are actually enjoying almost 100% connectivity. Electricity is what we need to grow the rural constituencies, because without it, then we cannot speak of any rural development. Whatever strategy we use, whatever we try to call it, we cannot develop without electricity. More so for rural constituencies, we must be talking about water, we must be talking about roads. And when this time comes, we shall be looking. I will particularly be quite keen to see what Tharaka is getting from this budget to uplift its electricity level, road level, whatever other water level, whatever other level of development we require. Even also as we speak, this House has made several motions. It had debates in acts that we need a group of people in national government administration known as area managers. These people should now be considered in this budget, because every time we pass a motion, every time we pass a law, we are told there are no funds available to remunerate our area managers. I will be calling upon the chairperson of the Budget and Appropriations. During the budget estimates, we must have a line for the area managers of the country and much more. Those, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to support.
Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support and to thank the chairman, knowing very well pursuant to Section 25, we always have to receive of the PFM Act, we always have to receive the PBS. And it also sets our strategic priorities, Mr. Speaker. And when I look at it, I realize the government has set 5 core pillars in agriculture and inclusive of growth, small and micro medium enterprise, digital superhighway, creative industry, housing, and healthcare. Mr. Speaker, having said that, is that when I look at now how the votes have been put through, and you realize that, yes, we also had the Hustler Fund, we also know it benefited, or it's benefiting 21, but it's important for them now for the government to do an assessment so that we understand whether indeed it is now impacting lives, especially to people in informal sectors. Mr. Speaker, when we talk of now the issue of pending bills, which I would have wished, because everything else, Mr. Speaker, Chairman has did what he can based on what the executive has brought in. But then when you're trying to implement policies that can mitigate the negatives that we have, then one of the negatives that we must be talking about is how do we deal with pending bills that right now many of our contractors, many of our suppliers are even wondering. So even as much as we want to move forward, we shall always have that animal biting us. And it is within this House that we must come up with a solution that will help the executive to understand, Mr. Speaker, that it is time to pay Kenyans who supplied to us government, who went and took loans, and right now some of them are just collapsing because their properties are being taken and many other things. And yet when we give the monies to county governments, they are not paying, they won't pay. And so we must come up with a framework, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when I look at the votes and I realize we have taken now health, as I said, then it is important for us to ensure we increase what is needed for health instead of decreasing. We also have said we would want to see education. We have indeed enhanced, yes, but you realize defense is taking more than even education. So it is something we have to look at. But the most important thing, these are the votes. We want to now see the appropriation. As I thank my chair for ensuring the constituency has been enhanced, but then at the same time, we have to be very wary so that we are not also blamed by Kenyans as they look at this budget and think it's a budget of the National Assembly members. We have to ensure it is going, and we must create an awareness that it is going to enhance, not because of members of National Assembly, but of course of Kenyans and the citizens. Mr. Speaker, there's one thing I want us to all of us agree, that as much as we are doing this, remember, we also need to also go back and ask ourselves, yes, I know we will come, we will discuss, but is it important for us to rethink? Can we remove taxes and increase VAT for us to see Kenyans have a breather? Because it is us. We were given this opportunity by Kenyans to deal with budgets, to deal with financials, and it is us to come up with a solution. Because right now, as much as we are doing all this, let us remember, the excise duties that we have put in, even in our own offices. Right now, you find staff are crying because what they are supposed to pay for NHIF, what they are supposed to pay for even the funds that we have increased, KRA has increased, it is something we have to look at. And so, Mr. Speaker, as I support, I am saying it is important we look to all the excise duties we imposed on Kenyans so that we clean and so that when we go out there, we are not again hit again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I hear the Honorable Kangogo asking I have how many minutes? I think I have only 5 minutes.
5 like everybody else.
So you would rather allow me to save my time. Let me first thank the Chair of the Budget Committee, all our chairs of departmental committees, and indeed all the members of our departmental committees and the members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee for the amount of time that they put in consideration of this BPS. Honorable Speaker, as we all know, this BPS, once approved by the House, will now form the basis upon which the National Treasury or the government will prepare the annual estimates that are to come to the House by the end of April this year, immediately after the diarized short recess. And Honorable Speaker, this being the basis of our budget estimates, Honorable Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to urge the National Treasury to ensure that they adhere to the recommendations of the Budget and Appropriations Committee and of this House. Because in the past, Honorable Speaker, it has become customary for the National Treasury to ignore what the House has approved in terms of the budget policy statement. And therefore, I want to urge them that this year must be different and they must check that they adhere to what the House has recommended in terms of the policy, broad policy, macroeconomic policies, and also the financial recommendations, Honorable Speaker. But Honorable Speaker, we may allow the National Treasury to deviate slightly on the financial recommendations. And I've had members speak to some of the financial recommendations, many of which I agree with, especially the increment of CDF from 53 to almost 63 billion, about 9-point-something billion shillings increment to NGCDF, because this is money that will go directly to development projects in our constituents and for the benefit of our people. But Honorable Speaker, one of the other issues I've had many people contribute to is the question of REREC or electrification in our areas. Honorable Speaker, I had occasion to visit Narok North constituency only 2 Sundays ago. And when I compare the reach of electricity in Narok North to that of Dagoretti South constituency, where my friend, the Honorable KJ, who seconded this motion, comes from, or even my own constituency in Kikuyu, we must be fair to each other in the allocation of national resources. The reach of electricity in Narok North cannot be compared to that in Kikuyu, or indeed in Dagoretti or Kamukunji constituency. We therefore must not just pass this resolution that this money be shared equitably and equally amongst the 290 constituencies. It should and it must be shared based on the need of each constituency. If I only need another 2 transformers to reach 90 or 100% of my constituents, I was in Huisero the other day, Honorable Speaker, where the president was commissioning the opening of the Huisero TVET. And that TVET got their first transformer the day before the president appeared there. Therefore, my TVET in Kikuyu had a transformer 10 years ago. Therefore, I should be fair enough, and in budget making, we must be fair and ensure that development is shared out equitably across the country. And that does not mean that we must all get an equal amount. Money that I may not need in my constituency for a certain endeavor, I probably will need more money in water to reach the people in the year, but less for electricity, and allow the people of Huisero or those of Narok North, or Emengwen for that matter, the member for Emengwen says. So, Honorable Speaker, with that, I would beg that when we come to the actual budget estimates, that the Chair, Budget and Appropriations will ensure together with this committee that this money is shared in a way that it creates equity across the country so that those who have no access to electricity first get access to electricity before we decide to share this money equitably, Honorable Speaker. Last year, Honorable Speaker, is to urge all of us that very soon we also receive the finance bill provisions for the 24-25 year. The budget estimates in terms of expenditure projections that are contained in this budget policy statement that will feed into the budget estimates for expenditure must be financed. And the committee has noted that this will be financed.
Your time is up. Give him 1 minute to finish.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying the money that will be raised will come from our own revenues raised locally from taxes. And I say that because we are fond of passing things without looking at the other end of the stick. What will feed the budget estimates in terms of expenditure? It is the revenues we raise. It is loans. We are talking about the debt management yesterday in the report that we passed yesterday. We have limited our deficit to 3.9% of our GDP. For us to be able to achieve that, we must ensure that the way we support this budget policy statement, in the same vigor and same determination, we support the finance estimate, the financing of this budget that will come. Otherwise, we'll be happy that we are getting 12 billion shillings for electrification, but we are not asking ourselves, how will it be financed? It will be financed by people contributing money. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, the slum upgrading 1 billion shillings, I disagree with this particular provision by the Budget and Appropriations Committee. We now have the housing levy fund once the Senate finalizes with the law. And that money, we also indicated that among the agencies to implement housing projects is a slum upgrading agency that then should be able to get money from the housing fund levy, not from budgetary allocations, Honorable Speaker. And I would urge that probably when we get to the annual estimates, we should be able to rectify some of these small things. With that, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Nabi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the budget policy statement as given by the Chairman Budget Committee. Mr. Speaker, I must point out that the budget policy statement is very progressive. It has ventured into areas that will uplift the standards of living for our people. It has ventured into areas that will ensure equity in development. It has ventured, Mr. Speaker, I think the majority leader is out of order to convene another sitting.
Order, majority leader and your team. Let's hear the member contributing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was saying that the budget policy statement has ventured into areas of ensuring equity in development, equity in resource allocation, and Mr. Speaker, what is interesting for me in this budget policy statement is the increase in money for national security intelligence. Mr. Speaker, I'm not convinced why we would be having a shortfall in capitation for primary education and free secondary education, and we are providing an extra 12 billion for national security intelligence. That money should have been allocated to capitation education. Mr. Speaker, there's a major gap unaddressed by the budget policy statement, whereas we have provided enough money for capitation, for higher education university, and loans for university and TVET, we have not provided any money for quality assurance in TVET. We are starting so many TVETs in every constituency, over 200 TVETs. But, Mr. Speaker, there is no provision for quality assurance in what is happening in those TVETs. We could be spending money that will not get value for. So I want to request the chairman budget, as we move forward, they must consider providing money for quality assurance in TVET. Whereas we applaud the PBS for equity, there is one more area that they need to consider, and that is the roads maintenance levy, money for carer. Mr. Speaker, in the past, money for carer has been skewed, especially the one for special roads. I would have wished to see the budget policy statement come up with a proposal, the way they have given us for REREC, that will ensure equity in the distribution of money for special roads. Mr. Speaker, the water sector, I'm proposing to the committee that just the way they have gone the REREC way, we need to implement a last mile in water sector. We must come up with a fund, and have calculated if we had provided 14 billion, each constituency would get about 50 million shillings for last mile for water. That will reduce the cost of healthcare, which we know in this country, most of it goes into creative care because of people not having habitable water in their families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support.
Karauri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I rise to support the report on the budget policy statement, let me commend the chairman. They've done an amazing job. They've taken their time to ensure that they stick to the timelines. And I must admit, the budget making process, for even today in this house, I think we are a happy lot. The extra CDF allocation is very welcome. What I beg moving forward, because I want to support some of my members of parliament who reside in Nairobi, based on our workload in terms of the population we must deal with. We must ensure that we increase the CDF allocation so it can reach to everyone in our constituencies. There's the issue of REREC as well, which has been mentioned, and also the roads that we have in Nairobi, more especially so in my constituency. And I wish the chairman of the budget committee would visit Kasarani. For Nairobi to remain a city, there's a difference between the city and the rural areas. That is the reason why we walk outside parliament today. We expect a tarmac road. In terms of ensuring that Nairobi remains a city, and we are proud that Nairobi is one of the best cities in Africa, let's ensure the roads in Nairobi are well taken care of. So in terms of the budget making process, please let's allocate the remaining areas of Nairobi that still don't have tarmac roads, so that we can ensure we have tarmac all over the great city of Nairobi. Again, the focus of the budget in terms of production, in terms of the agriculture sectors, housing and healthcare is very, very welcome, because that is what will propel us to where we want to go as a nation. As I also support, I would like to propose we also talk about the equalization fund in a different manner. Remember, we have a lot of slums in Nairobi. Sometimes in these slums, the quality of life is worse than people living in the rural areas. We need to see how we are going to be able to allocate more funds so that we can uplift the lives of the people living in the slums. Now, this budget policy, and I like what the majority leader has mentioned, it comes with a context because we have a debt. And I'm happy to see that the budget deficit will be approximately 703 billion, which means a reduction, which is very, very commendable. And with the medium-term debt management strategy, a lot of policies were mentioned there that if followed, we will definitely move to the next level. But then again, this budget policy statement comes with another context, and that is the revenue-raising measures that are yet to come. Personally, I feel like we are working backwards because we're all happy that we have money allocated to all these projects. we will be very happy to go back to our constituencies and tell them that we will have money for roads, money for electricity, money for development. But the painful day will come here again in this house when we start discussing where this money is going to come from. And where I will move in a different direction from my majority leader is to go back to what has been the practice. Because we have a revenue collector who is called KRA, who has always had shortfalls in terms of revenue collection. Whatever estimates they are given, they always have a shortfall. That painful finance bill we passed last year, they still have a shortfall of close to 200 billion. If we keep having these shortfalls, everything gets shifted, because in terms of funding this budget, we are going to have a problem. I beg the chair of the budget committee, in the next budget making process, we factor in the fact that there's an amount, a percentage of money that KRA will not be able to raise, so that we can be a bit more conservative in terms of our budget making. With those few words, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Chairman, Education Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the budget policy statement as put forward by the Chair Budget and the Budget Committee. Honorable Speaker, I want to laud this particular report because it has actually tried to look into the issues that are going to underpin the estimates, and at the same time, it gives out very clear programs and policies that the finance or the estimates will be based on. Honorable Speaker, a number of issues are very clear on this, especially on free education. Free day secondary school, free primary education.ฐtwo policies are very important and dear to this government, and more specifically to Kenyans. However, we have a lot of shortage, especially in JSS or the junior secondary school. We also have shortage in university funding, especially on the new funding formula. We also have a number of shortages, even in free day secondary education. The total shortage in that particular area, and which I want to thank the chair because they went ahead and added an additional 10 billion shillings, is amounting to almost 50 billion shillings. That in itself is a testament that the committee and the chair has seized of the matter. As a policy and a program, I want to ask the committee to make sure that as much the government is pumping in a lot of money into education, we need to put a lot of money in there to monitor and to evaluate, to make sure that the monies that we give in infrastructure, in capitation, both in TVET, all the way to universities, are well monitored so that we have value for this particular resource. Honorable Speaker, in other areas that the committee has done very well is especially on electricity. And I want to say the majority leader has shown us the way, that this budget is for the equity of Kenyans. This budget is to ensure that the rural areas and other parts of this country have electricity or connected to power. And in fact, this is what the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza put forward very clearly, that the government is for all and for every other Kenyan. The fact that they are putting in 50 million per constituency is a very, very important thing, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say that even in water, and I want the chair budget to listen to this and the House, as we try to give money in CDF to every constituency, electricity to every constituency, let's also budget the money for water for every constituency, so that now the resources will reach every home and every place in this particular part of the world. We also have another very important issue on ICT and technology. Madam Speaker, ICT is the in thing as we speak today. A lot of money is earned by the youth by use of technology. There need to be a lot of emphasis of technology in all aspects of the economy. We need to emphasize technology in agriculture, technology in trade, technology in energy, technology in education, technology in security, and technology in every aspect of our society. This means that we need to invest a lot in technology and more specifically in ICT, so that even the digital jobs we are talking about today can actually be realized by the youth of this country. So this budget policy statement, Madam Speaker, is actually very important. And I want to ask the budget committee and more so the budget chair to ensure that state departments come out with very clear programs, very clear policies on budgets. They make sure that they have what we call performance indicators. They do not come with estimates, because the estimates will be based on the budget policy statement. Every other time when I appear before budget committee, or when the state departments come before budgets, they come before committees, they always emphasize on the monetary aspect. But Madam Speaker, we need to emphasize on the policy, on the programs, on the KPIs of the very many state departments. With that, I rise and I support, and that was a very good budget policy statement. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Taita Taveta, Honorable Aika Mzigi. Are you there? She's not there. Okay, the Honorable Member for Kipiripiri, Honorable Wanjiko Muhia.
Niko hapa, Mr. Speaker. Niko hapa, Mr. Speaker.
I think you have, sorry.